Thank you, Mr. Chairman, members. The substitute for House Bill 582 directs DPS to include on a driver's license or personal identification certificate issued to a lawful permanent resident, a refugee, and asylee an indication that the license is not valid proof for identity for voting. Currently, these groups are issued Class C Texas driver's licenses or personal identification certificates identical to those issued to U.S. citizens. All other non-citizens, which include legal temporary visitors and visa holders, are eligible to apply for and are issued driver's licenses or ID cards with the words limited term across the top. This denotes the fact that they're in the United States for a limited term, usually that's the end of their visa. As you're aware, driver's licenses are a valid form of identification for voting, and the Secretary of State's Election Judge Handbook states that, as it relates to driver's license, note, this form of ID should not be used if it says limited term or temporary visitor appears on the face of the card, as that indicates that a person is not a U.S. citizen. But that's not always the case. So I'm passing around a page from the Secretary of State's Election Judge Handbook. So, as I stated, that's not always the case. If someone is a non-citizen, that's a refugee, an asylee, or a green card holder. So we also have a handout from the Secretary of State's office where they have their online presentation for training that shows if someone has a limited term or temporary visitor, it indicates they're not a U.S. citizen. Again, that's not always the case. So as you can see from the training material, there's nothing related to permanent residences or refugee asylees, and we know that if someone presents a driver's license as a form of identification, it is to be accepted by the election judge or the election clerk. So I want to make sure I'm clear about what this bill does not do. It doesn't substantially change the current process for applying for a license. So folks that are here legally can apply for a driver's license. That does not change that in any substantial way. It does not and should not create any hurdles to employment if they're eligible to work in the United States, and it doesn't change any eligibility requirement as it relates to obtaining a identification card. And really, it's simply intended to ensure that it's not used for voting. So thank you, Chairman and members. I'm happy to answer any questions, and I reserve the right to close.
Representative Meyer has a question.
Representative Dale, I believe you just mentioned this, but this identification card or Texas driver's license are not for undocumented or illegal immigrants, correct?
That's correct. Texas currently doesn't do that, and also in the caption of the bill, it does talk about driver's license and personal identification certificates issued to legal permanent residences. So it's specific to people that are here on some sort of visa or other permission from the federal government to be lawfully in the United States.
Very good. Thank you, Representative Dale.
Thank you.